This is the 26th lesson in a big series where I have been teaching deep dive tutorials on the top 25 jazz standards for guitar players. Wait a second, 26? Okay, I'm doing a bonus lesson just for fun. There's a link to a playlist of this entire series in the description, so check that out if you want to see all the other top 25 jazz standards. The song we're learning today as our bonus number 26 is the song Take 5. If you're here to just learn the chords or the melody, or you're just looking for tab for Take 5, just use the timestamp links in the description to go to the section that you're looking for. Here's what we're going to cover in this lesson. I'll tell you about the song. I'll play the melody with tab on the screen so you can follow along. I'll show you two versions of the chords that you can play. I will teach you the scales that you can use to improvise over this song, all with demonstrations and scale diagrams on the screen. And every lesson in this series includes a unique piece of advice for how to truly internalize a jazz standard on the guitar, so I will share that. And lastly, I'll give you a guitar listening recommendation for this song. You can access and download the learning resources from this whole lesson series and from my other lessons on my channel by becoming a premium supporter. There's a link in the top of the description to join. You'll get PDFs of the chord progression lead sheet, the scale breakdown sheets for soloing, the scale diagrams, the chord shape diagrams, and a custom-made backing track with me comping. You'll get everything except for the melody sheet music, because that's not in the public domain, but you can easily learn the melody from this video. Just use the link in the top of the description to join and to support and to get all of those extra resources, or go to soundguitarlessons.com/join. Take 5 was composed by Paul Desmond and first recorded by the Dave Brubeck Quartet in 1959 on the landmark album Time Out. It became a massive hit, one of the only jazz instrumentals to achieve mainstream chart success, and this is still one of the most recognizable jazz tunes of all time, especially among non-jazz musicians. And even though this is not typically considered a core standard, it's not something that people are expected to know, and it's not something that is specific for jazz guitar players or anything. I am including it on this list as a bonus in the series because, well, it's really fun, it's so widely recognized, and I think it's a very valuable piece to explore, especially for getting comfortable playing in 5/4 time and improvising in 5/4 time if you want to work on that as well. This tune has a strong, catchy melody and a simple vamp-based form, making it very approachable while still offering, of course, that unique rhythmic challenge of playing in 5/4. Let's go ahead and learn the melody to Take 5. Now I'll play you the melody with guitar tab and notation on the screen. I encourage you to practice along with this demonstration as you're working on the melody. Here it is. Take 5 is really straightforward, actually, and if you kind of look into what's happening here, the A section especially is just so simple. We have this outlining an E flat minor triad, 5-1 flat 3. Then we're just using the blues scale from there, 4 blues note, and I like to specifically arrange it this way on the fretboard. Hammer on the blues note, and then up to the 5. Okay, and then you have this little figure that happens twice. But the second time, you do the lower one first, and then the upper one. Very kind of balanced sound. That's the whole A section. But mainly I want to show you the B section because, of course, it's much more involved. It takes more practice. What's happening here if you analyze it a little bit, you can see that, oh, it's outlining this minor triad, or minor seventh chord, I mean, it's outlining a 7th chord, and then the next one is outlining the next 7th chord, and it's doing it through a pattern or a sequence of the scale of the tonal center. So if you take the full scale here, which is G flat major, and then you play, okay, if this is a 7th chord off of this note here, we don't even need to like label them or anything. You're just thinking logically, kind of like a pattern, like a puzzle. Okay, and then if you play, so you're playing every other note off of this note, then go down a note in the scale, every other note, and then go down a note in the scale and play every other note. So, okay, it's a pattern. It's a melodic pattern. You're arpeggiating through the scale. So that, knowing that, maybe doing it the other way, sounds more familiar because it's kind of doing it like that. Or you could even go, okay, so Paul Desmond practices those kinds of patterns, and I love to work on those kinds of patterns through the scales, but especially there's so many of them you could do, so I like to go through and practice them when I notice them in a melody. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm really going to go ahead and do that through the whole scale. And it's just amazing practice for all kinds of reasons. But in this case, we're also getting into the heart of the structure that this B section is from, and it will help you learn and be able to play that much better. So I just wanted to point that out, to look for sequences, look for patterns, look for things that you can extract from a melody, and then practice that as an exercise and a little etude for yourself, just through a scale, through a place on the fretboard, and then go back to the melody and work out how it's coming from that. Obviously, there's some chromatic notes in this as well, but it's so organized and so catchy. So if you find that helpful, go ahead and work out some of that pattern stuff. Otherwise, just drill the melody. It takes a while to get this part of the melody down, but it comes together if you just repeat it enough times, obviously. Now I will play you two different versions of the chord shapes for this tune. I'll play each chord once each time a chord changes, and I'll show you the chord shape diagrams on the screen as I play. I encourage you to practice along with these demonstrations as you're working on getting the chords down. First, I'll play you the chords using the simplest chord shapes possible. These are often called shell voicings, and they are widely used in jazz. Here's that demonstration. Now I will play you the more common jazz guitar chord shapes for this tune. They have an extra note in them and they fill out the sound a little more. Here's that demonstration. Let's look at the chords for a second. I just want to point out that these voicings are the exact voicings that the piano is playing in the recording. So we have 1 flat 3 5 1 of E flat minor triad. not a 7th chord. And then we have B flat minor 7, 1, 5, flat 7, flat 3. It's exactly the voicings. So I love that. It's not often on the guitar that we can play something exactly that a piano player played, but here we can. So that's what's happening in the A section. And then the B section is just all of these diatonic chords, all of these chords just from the key, not really going out of it, except for one tiny moment. But this points out that it's very worth knowing your chords through a key. So we're in the key of G flat major. So this is the 1 chord of G flat major. The 7 chord is always half diminished. If you're harmonizing through a scale with 7th chords, half diminished. The 6th chord of a key, if you make it a 7th chord, is always a minor 7. The 5th chord is always dominant 7. So your chords through the key. And so this is doing that. It's doing kind of a circle of fourths thing. It goes to C flat major 7, which is the 4th chord of G flat major to the key. So we have the 4 chord, and then it goes up a 4th, though an augmented 4th, up to F half diminished. It goes to the 7th chord. And then this goes down a 5th to the 3 chord of the key. This goes up a 4th to the 6 chord of the key. This goes down a 5th, and down a 5th and up a 4th are the same thing. So I shouldn't say it one way or the other. You could play it. I just think of it all as up a 4th. I think of it through the circle of fourths. So you can say C flat, up a 4th to the 7 chord, up a 4th to the 3 chord, up a 4th to the 6 chord, up a 4th to the 2 chord, through the circle of fourths, 5 chord, 1 chord. So we have 4, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. And then this chord is just the 1 chord first inversion. I love this voicing. This is G flat major 7 with the 3rd in the bass. This is 3, root, 5, 7. Fret 6, 4, 6, 6, skipping the A string. So it's going, oh, it's really nice because boom, boom, it's going to go back to that for playing that sequence again. So again, 4, 7 chord, 3 chord, 6 chord, 2 chord, 5 chord, 1 chord, first inversion of the 1 chord, then does it again. And now it goes minor 2, 5, back to this. So that's the only time, not even this chord, but this chord, this B flat dominant 7 flat 9 or B flat dominant 7 flat 13. Same chord. If you see either flat 13 or flat 9, they're representing the same chord. You can play the flat 9, you can play the flat 13 or both or either. So I often play this if I'm playing off the 6th string. This is a B flat 7 flat 13 voicing. And then if I go up to the top string, I might go play this, where it's flat 7, 3, flat 13, flat 9, or this. Lots of little options there, or that. So just wanted to point that out, knowing your chords through the key, and then it's just doing this circle of fourths thing, full on 4, 7, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1, just going through all the chords. So that's the B section, all very logical, all very kind of pattern oriented and very catchy. So that's our analysis of the chords. One of the secrets to better and more interesting comping is just simply knowing more voicings and more inversions of chords. If you want to go deeper with chord voicings and comping by methodically learning all of your chord inversions for the most important 7th chords all over the fretboard, then check out my course called Jazz Comping Mastery. You can go to soundguitarlessons.com/JCM to check that out. And there's also a link in the description. Next, I will show you 2 different options for the scales you need to be able to improvise and solo over this tune, over the entire chord progression. And I will demonstrate and show diagrams of all of the scales in one specific overlapping position on the fretboard. Let's do a little analysis first. Here's what I call the complete scales analysis, the complete scales sheet for Take 5. I've been doing this for this entire series, all 25 songs in this Jazz Standards series. So we're just looking at what scales do the chords of a tune actually come from? Well, this tune is so diatonic, which means that it's just coming from a 7-note scale, a key center. It's very poppy. That's why it is very popular, because it's not doing anything too dissonant. It's not trying to have dense jazz harmony. It's using 7th chords, but it's staying all within one key, except for one tiny moment here. So this complete scales sheet here is showing us all of this comes from E natural minor, which is the same as G flat major. You could just think G flat major scale. And then you are really having to rely on, even aside from the fact that 5/4 is hard to play in, but you have to rely on playing ideas that sound melodic and reacting to yourself and really saying something. You're not thinking as much about where's the key going to change, where's the scale going to change. There's been several tunes in this series where that's the case, especially when we simplify the scales, that you can play all in one scale, and then you just can really think about your phrasing and stuff. This one, though, we have this one tiny moment of notes that go outside of the key center. That is just to tonicize the natural minor there. So we're playing the 5 chord of E minor, and that comes from the harmonic minor. So this minor 2/5 here comes from E flat harmonic minor, and really just this chord alone is the one that must come from E flat harmonic minor. This also exists in E flat natural minor. So that right there, 2 beats with just 1/2 step different, making the major third of that chord. So if you wanted to target that, that's what the complete scales sheet shows us. You certainly don't have to. The simplified version is just that goes away, and we could play E flat natural minor or G flat major throughout this entire thing. And then it's just this extremely fun challenge to try to play phrasing in 5/4, and much more advanced challenge beyond that would be trying to outline the chords and really follow the changes with chord tones and stuff like that. But knowing where you are in the form and just playing even roughly the right scale is really the first huge step that gets you ready to that you're playing a real version of the song. You're playing the tune. I think we should all be doing that before we go into anything deeper, and then the deeper stuff is more rewarding, and you have a place to put them and use them when you do that, such as chord tones and everything like that, which I love to work on. So that is, I'll demonstrate this now, improvising through this with this tiny little, addressing this tiny little one here, and then we'll talk about the next part of the tune. So here are those 2 scales that are in this tune. It's mostly just this E flat natural minor. There's the E flat root, but this is applying to so many chords that I just think of it as a collection of notes that all those chords are coming from. Okay, so that's E flat natural minor, and then that one little tiny spot is coming from E flat harmonic minor. So there's E flat harmonic minor. Now I'll just improvise with this. You don't have to try to improvise on this song unless you're particularly interested in working on 5/4. Then it's just a fantastic song to do this on. And I just want to show you improvisation example. It's obviously mostly going to be that E natural minor scale, and also I might use a little bit of the blues scale because that just works with it so well. Obviously it's in the melody too. And then the simplified version of this is you just skip needing to use that harmonic minor scale. So I won't demonstrate that also because so much of it is already one scale. But let's give that a go, just a little bit of improvising, trying to do some 5/4 phrasing as an example. So I don't have to show you this, but let me say that Paul Desmond in the original recording only improvises over the 5/4, over the A section and not the B section. So you could create a little vamp for yourself and just practice with this scale, E natural minor or G flat major, if you want to think of it that way, and just practice playing in your 5/4. It's just so great if you want to work on odd times to have something to apply it to, a real tune to apply it to. So that's why that's there. Otherwise, this simplified version, all we're doing is not worrying about harmonic minor here. I do like to improvise over the full thing just to kind of work on that and ideally kind of address these changes and stuff like that. But yeah, no need to do that for yourself unless you know that you're interested interested in it for a specific reason. So that's just what I wanted to show you here. I don't need to demonstrate again. I already played through the whole thing, and you know that it would just be ignoring that one spot if you wanted to simplify it for yourself. You want to do whatever it takes to just get through the tune as soon as possible, to be able to play a complete version of the tune using whatever minimal information is needed. I actually think the musical results of this are very cool. But then the next step after that is beginning to target the chord changes in more detail. If you want to go deeper on jazz guitar lead improvisation and master outlining and targeting chord tones in your solos with a methodical system that I developed over many years, then check out my course called Nail the Changes. You can check it out at soundguitarlessons.com/NTC, or you can use the link that's in the description. Here's your musicianship tip for this lesson. I've been calling these internalization tips for this whole series, but for this one, it's kind of more just a general musicianship tip to not ignore odd time signatures, even if there's not a tune that you specifically want to play that's in an odd time signature, though you're watching this video, so you probably want to play this one, but do improvise and work on odd time signatures, even at first just 3/4, which isn't really considered an odd time, but it is much harder than 4/4 if that's all you've ever done. But 5/4 in this case is a great thing to practice. Do it with a loop of these chords or backing track or even just a metronome. And one of the secrets to starting to improvise is to try to play constant notes and very much feel that you are in the 5/4. So you don't have to just always go ba-da, ba-da, da, 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 ba-da, ba. You heard me do that in my improvisation because it can sound good. So I want to do it when I want to do it. But we usually start improvising in odd time signatures where we do that and we're stuck with that, or else we get lost. That's not a great recipe for actually expressing yourself. So you want to unlock your ability to really play in it by playing constant notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so I'm feeling very much the 5/4, but playing constant notes, and where I'm accenting just feels good to me. I'm not accenting in some, specific 5/4 denomination. I'm accenting some upbeats and whatnot, but when it comes around to the beginning of each segment of 5/4, I really, really know where I am, even with the constant notes. And then that's going to allow me to then do phrasing in whatever way I want to actually be expressive, because I have worked out just playing constant notes. So hope that makes sense. Typically you'd think, if you play constant eighth notes, you're going to get lost. How do you know it's 5/4? Well, you have to learn to feel it that way with that grouping of constant notes. So constant notes in odd time signatures is kind of the overall musicianship tip here. Just do it with even random notes with a metronome will help you with the time signature. But since you're interested in this tune, that's the way to start to unlock that and have a lot of fun with it. And this is all one scale, so you can move around just like I did in my improvisation. I did a lot of that in the improvisation because I've practiced that, and it very much works as the chords are moving around it. So that's your tip for this lesson. I'll give you my guitar listening recommendation for this song in 1 second, but first, you can access and download the learning resources from this whole lesson series and from my other lessons on my channel by becoming a premium supporter. You'll get PDFs of the chord progression lead sheet, the scale breakdown sheets for soloing, the scale diagrams, the chord shape diagrams, and a custom-made backing track with me comping. You'll get everything except for the melody sheet music because that's not in the public domain, but you can easily learn the melody from this video. Just use the link in the top of the description to join and support and get all of those extra resources, or go to soundguitarlessons.com/join. If you want a jazz guitar listening recommendation for Take 5, I recommend George Benson. Well, a listening list for jazz guitar would not be complete without George Benson. So thankfully, he did a version of Take 5, so I could throw him on this list. And I think it's a live version, actually. But George Benson's version of Take 5 on his album Bad Benson is what I recommend. There's a link to a playlist of all of my listening recommendations for this whole series in the description. Make sure you listen to that or a different version that you like. The original's fine too. Just listen to a version of it a lot as you're working on learning this song. And make sure you're subscribed because I can't wait to see you in my next lesson. I post a lesson video every single Tuesday. I've been doing that for 6 years now, and I haven't missed a week of doing it. So subscribe for all the future lessons. Hit that like button and leave a comment to let me know if you liked this lesson. It really makes a difference and it helps the video reach more people. Check out the description for all the links I've mentioned and how you can support the channel. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for watching. Take care and happy practicing.